To episode 19 of the Cat Context podcast for Wednesday, February 13th, 2013. We have a few little bits and pieces to talk about today, including the brewing controversy over the character Tiny Tina in Borderlands 2, and also we'll see if we can figure out why so many Rift players are upset about the removal of falling damage. I'm, of course, Liore, and with me, as usual, are Elendriel and Aerolade. Hey, Ellie, how was your weekend?
Pretty good. I learned a new drinking game. And I also realized that some people are way, way better at identifying the beginning of 80s songs than me.
These are important skills to know about.
Yeah, it's true. I went to my brother-in-law's 30th birthday party, and we played a game where we drank lots of beer out of a giant pot within the time frame of Xanadu from Rush. It's about 12 minutes long, the version he had.
Was it at least good beer?
Oh no, it was like Coors Light, and then I think there were like a couple of Sierra Nevada pale ales thrown in, and maybe I think somebody poured in like a Stella or two as we were going.
See, I was going to compliment you on the Canadian content with Rush, but now that you're talking about Coors Light, I think I'm going to retract that.
Yeah, and then he played a music game where it was, buzz in and answer what song this is from his birth year, which was 1983. It turns out there are tons and tons of awesome songs from 1983, but I don't know them from the first two notes, and some people did.
I would like to play that game.
I would not like to play against Arrow in that game. Speaking of Arrow, how has your weekend been so far?
I'm not sure if I should actually answer that, because the most exciting thing that happened is the most epic and dreadful poopocalypse ever in the history of the world. So, welcome to parenting, really, is that wow. It was like 3/4 of her body weight, and it was everywhere, and I don't know how it happened. So that's what I've been doing most of today.
But would you estimate it would have taken within the 12 minutes of Xanadu?
Probably.
Ah, the miracles of child rearing.
It's so great. And by great, I mean I want to die.
Well, I guess now's a good time to talk about video games. All right, so let's talk about Tiny Tina first. This, even though Borderlands 2 has been out for a while, the question of is Tiny Tina, who is one of the characters in Borderlands 2, is it a racist character, has been kind of screaming all over Twitter in the last 2 weeks, and it's an interesting topic, but I'm going to throw it over to Ellie first, which is cruel of me, but you have played the game more than any of us, so I don't know. I mean, can you give us a little idea of what the issue might be?
I can try. It's hard for me because this is one situation where I sort of struggle to see the issue at heart. Tiny Tina, I think I've talked about Tiny Tina. I really like her. She's one of my favorite characters in the game. She speaks like a white trash southerner, I guess. She uses a lot of African American lingo. There's specifically, I know the terms badonkadonk and we're gonna get crunk and stuff like that came up. I feel like those are fairly mainstream slang terms. At least I have been hearing them for, I don't know, almost 10 years. I basically equate the way that she speaks to like Honey Boo Boo, I guess, would be my best comparison. There is some more sort of like typical white trash style speech patterns from other characters. Scooter, who's like the mechanic, and his sister Ellie. I didn't really have any problem with Tiny Tina at all. I understand that if people have a problem with a character or something like that, it is totally reasonable to raise it. I struggled with the specifics of what came out on Twitter, partially due to the way that it was brought up, and partially due to the fact that it was on Twitter, which makes the conversation incredibly hard to follow and difficult to have any nuance to.
And to make a point, sort of as far as the drama goes on Twitter, a fellow who worked for Cryptozoic, Mike Sacco, I'm probably mispronouncing his name, stepped down from his position as a contractor at Cryptozoic because he felt that the Tiny Tina character is racist, and they asked him not to represent that, although it's sort of a little legally dubious, which is why everyone's really talking about this right now, which seems sort of strange that Borderlands 2 has been out for like 4 months now.
Six almost.
Wow, I'm having this conversation now, which I actually had to look it up when I first heard about it. I'm like, really? We're talking about this now? Okay.
I think the more interesting thing anyway is chilling effect of a company telling somebody, please don't talk about this stuff on Twitter. That happens a lot, right? Like, if you go out in a public place and part of the reason that you say that you can speak with authorities that you work for a particular company, then on some level you're representing that company, and then if on some level you are acting in a way that they don't want, they may well ask you not to talk there anymore. That happens all the time.
I think part of that is because of the nature of the way things like Twitter work, and I mean there's no separation, there's very little separation anymore between someone's personal Twitter account, say, and their professional or business account. So there's no personal space anymore to say, this is my personal thing that I think. Everyone is always attached to their professional or business persona.
You know, we've said before and over and over in this podcast that there are certain dialogues that we need to have as gamers and that developers need to have, and this is an example, whether you agree with the basic statement or not, is an example of that dialogue being shut down in some capacity, which is always unfortunate in my opinion.
I don't know. I also wonder at what point we are allowed to adopt language that we didn't originate. There is a lot of slang in our lives. I mean, the word cool, for instance, is not a white person or originated word, right? How do you know when something is allowed to be said or not allowed to be said is a particularly interesting and probably important question to ask. I think you have to sort of consider intent. No? I mean, maybe not. Like, it's hard, right?
Right, but the thing, intent isn't magic. It's not, like, especially with Tiny Tina as someone outside this who is neither a person of color nor has really spent much time with the game. For me, the story was interesting not because I feel that I'm capable of arguing one way or another for the character, but that when someone is hurt by something, that's always valid. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. They've been hurt. That's it. It's done. There's no matter of intent will fix that. That's why we need to have these dialogues and learn these things and learn how to respond when people are hurt instead of the publisher of the game going to someone's company and saying, you need to shut this guy up. We need to be able to take criticism as gamers, as a culture, as a business. And I think that's the big problem right now. No one can take criticism.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that for sure. It's just also, there's a question of at what point do you back off versus at what point is... A lot of things are offensive to a lot of people, right? And there's a line where you have to, at some point somebody's going to be offended, and do you respond to them, or do you allow them to dictate the way that you interact and write games and write dialogue?
Well, I think that's up to each individual person, really.
The publisher the writers have to decide if they care that someone is hurt. A lot of the trouble right now is that they don't care when women or people of color are hurt, which is a big deal for me. And then that I decide that I don't want to give them my money because they don't care that they make me feel like a small and worthless person.
I actually, to that point, felt like this particular incident was actually handled reasonably well on the writer's side. The writer from Borderlands basically said that he had not intended it that way, and had based it off of people in his life, and they would essentially reevaluate Tiny Tina going forward, and potentially even change her if it made sense. So, I mean, I think that is a pretty, at least from a PR perspective, is a better outcome than we have seen in a lot of places where the end result is basically like, no, fuck that.
Yeah, I was going to say, just based on the interactions that are available on Twitter and whatnot, and I wish I had his name handy, but the writer of Borderlands 2 definitely was, really open-minded and engaged in the dialogue, and I think dealt with it. We've seen such horrible cases of terrible PR lately. Torso.
So the writer it was actually the lead writer for Borderlands 2, and his name's Anthony Birch. Just, so that we have that.
All right, well, from actual, real-life issues to totally over-the-top non-real-life issues, allow me to complain for a moment about the Rift community. A few weeks ago, I guess probably about 6 weeks ago now, in one of the post-patch 2.1 hotfixes, Tryon removed all falling damage in Rift. Hurl yourself off the highest mountain, it don't matter.
Aw, man. I would actually be really disappointed by that.
I didn't realize it was all falling damage, because the first I heard was that they massively reduced it.
No, they removed it all. And people are really upset about it. There are complaints in the forums. There have been threads ongoing ever since it happened. They're saying that they were wrong to remove features, that games should only add features. There's actually is a petition going for a special falling damage shard. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'd go that far.
Yeah, no, okay, that is excessive. One of the devs, Stagler, was quoted on the forums as saying they considered, will removing this make the game as a whole more enjoyable for the most amount of people? And that's what they thought about. They decided yes, so they removed it. And as you might be able to tell from my slightly sarcastic tone of voice, I am all in favor of removing falling damage. I think it's stupid, and my world is better off without it. And now I can fight with you guys about this.
That falling damage is one of those things that I think is hilariously fun. It's a game for me to find places where I can fling myself and not die. And I would be really disappointed to lose that personal minigame, because I think MMOs are a lot of the time about your own personal minigame. But there's a difference between disappointed and, oh my god, petitions.
Well, to be fair, I don't think many of us are ever at the oh my god petitions level of...
That's true, because we're reasonable.
Well, reasonable kind of goes pretty far, but we'll just yell about it on blogs or podcasts rather than write petitions.
Exactly.
Is falling damage, do you think, an important part of immersion?
I don't necessarily care about immersion, so it's not that for me. It's just something that I think is hilarious and fun.
I think immersion is a good way to put it. I die a lot from falling. I have died a lot from falling, and I like the fact that I can die from falling for similar reasons to Arrow. I mean, I've died from drowning several times. I used to die from drowning in WoW all the time, and I actually didn't like it when they made the drowning bar go 3 times as slow or whatever it was. Yeah, that was one of the original undead draws, honestly, in a lot of ways, was the additional water breathing. And similarly, Rift had the dwarves who had additional falling damage as a racial trait.
They did, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like there's achievements in Rift for jumping from places and living, and all of those achievements are sort of no longer as interesting to me. I mean, that was one of my favorite things, was like finding the random hidden achievement. I think every zone had some place that you could jump from and get a title or something. And if you missed it by a little bit, then you hit the rocks in the bottom and died. And I don't know. I mean, Liore, I think you were online a couple of times when I was like, man, I died again. And I was just trying to land in the deep part of the water, and I probably died 5 or 6 or 8 times in a row. And it's like a long run back to where you have to go to jump again. I really wanted that title.
See, that sounds so fun.
I did that exact same achievement, and when I heard that they removed falling damage, that was the first thing I thought of, and I'm like, yes, that would be so much better now. So in my heart, I'm like this elitist hardcore pro raider, although I don't have the time or energy to actually do it, but in my heart, I have a shriveled black raider's heart. But this falling damage thing, get rid of it.
It's because you're allergic to fun.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That being said, I do appreciate the fact that, it can be a fun little mini game. So I'm not trying to say that, that is not a valid reason.
Whatever.
I actually think it's about flavor for me more than anything. I know we talk about Borderlands a lot, but partially because I played the hell out of it. But Borderlands doesn't have any falling damage, and they actually use it to comedic effect. Like, there are times when you are told to go jump off the highest building or whatever, and then, one of the characters comments on how that was totally badass and it's amazing, and I think you might even get an achievement for it. And that world doesn't have falling damage, and it's cool, but it's also part of the overall silliness and, sort of ridiculous, No. I think falling off of a cliff and living is sort of ridiculous by default. So I think that if I'm riding along on my horse and accidentally fall off the edge of the cliff, there should be some sort of consequence to that other than that I have to ride back around.
But you're an amazing superhero. You fight 50-story tall robot lizards.
And apparently you're also Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, for me, it's disappointing to hear that it's gone completely. I knew that they had reduced it, and honestly, I haven't played Rift in a while, so I never even played with the reduced before they took it out.
For shame.
Yeah, well, at least I'm not playing WoW.
Oh, snap.
Oh, that was the wickedest part.
I'm actually vastly amused that you guys are sort of more pro falling damage. I figured this was going to be a slam dunk, and everyone would be like, yeah, those guys are crazy.
I think it's crazy to be like... I think the reaction of it's always ridiculous to remove a feature and calling falling damage necessarily a feature, I think that is a terrible argument.
That is a little too much.
I mean, there are lots of features that I want to see go from things because they are bad features and or impact the game negatively. So I think that's a bad argument to make.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, the forum is full. I mean, it's full of crazy people who post on an official MMO forum, so... I don't know. We did a retro raid HK for people who are familiar with Rift, and there are parts where you used to have to sort of run back and go down different tunnels, and now you can just hurl yourself off the top and down to the bottom and start clearing the basement bosses, and it's just so much simpler.
I always thought that's what Levitate was for, or Mage Featherfall. That was one of the best parts of being those classes.
Exactly. That was one of the reasons why I played a priest was Levitate.
Don't you remember in Warcraft when we went into Black Wing Descent? I think that was Cataclysm. And people always fell off the elevator, and it was hilarious.
That's true. There's no more elevator death in Rift. See, again, I'm not seeing the downside to that.
Elevator bosses are the best.
But that's because you played a priest and still died.
Also, I think that comes from years of raid running. You're trying to get people to the next boss, and okay, someone died in the elevator again.
It's always the same person.
It sure is.
And the best elevator boss was Serpent Shrine, because you couldn't actually levitate that, because the elevator went so fast that even if you tried to levitate, the elevator would come up and still crush you.
I will admit to having died to the elevator boss in Serpent Shrine at level 80.
I'm not sure I would have admitted that.
It's very easy to do.
Are you guys pro water breathing damage?
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, not. I would not be as disappointed if everyone had, an underwater breathing mask, because that's not as important a minigame to me.
Well, but Rift also has underwater exploring puzzles where you have to swim. I mean, some of that stuff matters a lot less when you can go to a website and find where the puzzle is and then go right above it on your coordinates and then dive straight down and find it. But, I mean, I don't know. I agree. I think that the water breathing thing is less important to me than falling damage for whatever reason.
Yeah, clearly these sort of quality of life changes, clearly they walk a pretty fine line. I mean, you think like a rift will dismount you if you run into water, which I find incredibly irritating, and I know WoW made that change, so that didn't happen quite a while ago.
Yeah, I think that was with Cataclysm. That was great.
I think we could all agree that was a good change. I didn't even play a gnome, but it was a good change.
I remember, because Shouty's gnome, we would be in Black Morass, and she would have to swim when the rest of us were just running from gate to gate, and it would take forever, and we would wipe, because she was a gnome, and she, that was terrible.
How do you feel about run speed increases? Because I know surely before they took out the falling damage, Rift boosted everyone's run speed, unmounted run speed, and that caused a lot of the same sort of backlash, although I think falling damage has been worse.
I have no problem with run speed. The faster I can get to wherever I need to go to be having fun is very important.
I struggle with run speed.
Really? How come?
I think it changes the scale of the world in a way that is not always good. I think Rift is actually fine. I played with the new run speed, and it's not massive. I don't know. One of them some gameplay made run speed fast enough that when I was on the ground, the animations got all messed up too.
Could have been Star Wars.
Maybe it was Star Wars. I don't know.
All right. Well, we will go on the record books as being mixed on falling damage.
And by mixed, you mean
Liore being wrong.
Yeah.
Oh my god! You two didn't even coordinate that, man. That's fine. I know in my heart I'm right. My shriveled black heart. Okay, Ellie, aside from Borderlands 2, I ask you this is like the 5th episode in a row. Aside from Borderlands 2, what else have you been playing?
I downloaded Battle Cats on my phone.
What is Battle Cats?
Did you know?
Yeah, so Battle Cats is like, I don't know, it's sort of, it's not tower defense exactly, but it's sort of like waves of guys coming at you, and you build guys to go at them, and then they fight each other and whatever. I don't know if it's just a really bad Japanese to English translation, or if it's intentionally done, to be broken English. But the story is that, I don't understand the story, but whatever. And all of your units are hilariously cute little cats, and then like there's dogs and snakes and stuff coming after you. It has some sort of free-to-play or freemium model where you can buy more energy or something.
Don't fall into the $70 Bubble Witch trap.
Yeah, no, that will not happen. That will not happen here. But I don't know. That's like, I had to come up with something that's not Borderlands. I guess I've played some Magic. The new Magic set came out. And I went to the pre-release for that, and then have spent a bunch of time deck building. And then I played Borderlands.
Have you considered trying some Borderlands? Because I think you'd really like it.
No, the game sucks.
How about you, Era? Have you had any time to play stuff this week?
Okay, this is actually almost as embarrassing as Battle Cats. I hooked up my Genesis for the first time in a couple years this weekend. Because I was bit with the nostalgia bug. And sure enough, I cannot beat the Wildebeest Stampede or Aladdin's Lamp at all.
That's awesome. I would also never call playing retro games, especially on the original console, a waste of time or embarrassing.
I'm with Ellie on this one.
Well, it's embarrassing because my terrible old lady reflexes, and these games were hard as fuck to begin with. And now I couldn't even get to the Wildebeest Stampede. I couldn't make the stupid can't wait to be king rhino tail jump. God, if any of you have ever played Lion King for the Genesis, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That game is impossibly hard. Someone was talking about it. They were talking about retro games, and they were saying something about the way adult Simba moves, and all of the responses were, wow, you can play adult Simba in that game? I would never have known. But I did beat Aladdin when I was a kid. I just couldn't get through the lamp at all.
Beating Aladdin is fairly impressive.
When I was a kid, though. I don't think I've beaten it since I was 14.
Well, still, whatever.
Yeah, hold on to that.
I am. I'm going to cling to that for the rest of my life.
I mean, I think I beat it on Super Nintendo.
Oh, whatever.
But the Super Nintendo was so much easier than the Genesis.
Yeah, for real.
Well, I had a Nintendo because Nintendo is better than Sega.
No, the Genesis was one of the greatest systems ever made.
Well, I couldn't convince my parents to buy me all the systems like I can do myself now.
Exactly. Being an adult is so great.
Screw you, Mom and Dad.
Now I will play all the games. I still have a million games for the Genesis, and I am terrible at all of them, and I can't even drink now. And seriously, hooking up the Genesis screams for a drinking game.
How did you get your Genesis to connect?
I have a TV with a coax cable.
Well, I've mostly been in the MMOs, back in the MMOs lately, playing a little Rift and a little Terra, and yes, a little World of Warcraft. Yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty sure you said Terra and you tried to sneak that in there as more or less embarrassing than WoW.
Well, shit.
And that is hilarious. The shame spiral you're working here is spectacular.
Look, I'm not ashamed. It's free. It's free to play.
And?
Okay, look. So there's like pantsless cat girls everywhere, okay?
Yeah, whatever.
Speaking of pantsless cat girls.
Yes, go on.
Oh, this should be good.
So WildStar had all that press this week. That was kind of interesting. Except it looks really cool. I don't know. There was really super ultra skinny cat girls in that, and I don't know how to feel about it. Did you watch any of the videos?
Yeah, and I'm totally turned off by the character design, particularly those cat girls. I really, really am. I want to like WildStar.
Yeah, the human girl that was in the teaser trailer was okay, although had really big boobs for her age, I think. But I could probably deal with that okay. And I thought the humans looked pretty cool, but the cat people was I don't know, they were all the worst part of night elves and had tails.
Oh man. Now I'm picturing night elves with tails, and I need to go shower.
Or go to an RP server and install that thing where you can see what people have written for descriptions for themselves.
I actually have tried RP servers, and unfortunately I play Alliance, which means that I'm stuck in the worst possible place for any RP server, and I just couldn't. Oh man.
Yeah, I played my first 5 years of WoW on RP servers, and a good portion of that on Alliance, so I understand. What was the server that was known as the place to go cyber in Goldshire?
All of them?
Moon whatever?
Moonguard, yeah. So I spent a lot of time on Moonguard. That's where I started raiding. So, yeah.
That explains so much.
Oh, come on. That wasn't even my first RP server. That was my fourth RP server.
You set that up. How can I not take that home?
I know. I tried to use the description mod for good.
Yep.
Turns out that all it does is upset me because I have to look at other people's terrible stories.
That sounds about right. Well, I mean, Terra is pretty over the top, but it's sort of it's almost so over the top. It's just veered directly into unintentional parody. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah, that's fair. You should play it ironically like a hipster of MMOs.
Nice! I'm playing Terra, but only ironically.
Yeah, just put on your hipster glasses, it'll be perfect.
Oh, sweet. Thanks, guys.
I don't think there are enough hipster glasses in the world for that.
Is the actual mechanism of killing fun?
It is more action-oriented. There's lots of strafing and sort of just sort of average mobs will telegraph larger moves that make you move around and stuff. So more so than WoW or Rift, I would say.
Because that sounds fun.
And I mean, leveling in WoW is does not. You almost don't even have. Thanks, Ellie. You almost don't even have to look at the screen, honestly, while you do it.
It's so bad. I tried to level with no heirlooms and on a new server at the end of Cataclysm, just to like stay in the level range of the quests I was doing. I also never logged off in an inn and like tried to minimize rest, and like I just out-leveled everything and it was so easy.
It's been a long time since I've done any leveling in WoW, much less played it. And I'm doing the level 85 to 90, the Pandaria quests, but I can't believe, and maybe they were always like this, but they're just so kill 10 rats over and over and over again. Way more so than other MMOs I've played lately. But I'm still playing it, because, I don't know.
It's like your security blanket?
Ah, yes, that is exactly it. It makes a pleasant diversion while I watch House of Cards compulsively.
Oh man, that's so good!
I know, I had to get that in before you ended recording. Watch House of Cards on Netflix. Robin Wright is amazing, and I want her hair.
We're trying to make it go slow so that we're not done too soon, but it's so good! And by good, I mean horrible, and by horrible, I mean in the very best way!
Alright, so when you're leveling in WoW, watch House of Cards.
Or just watch House of Cards and don't level in WoW. That's cool too. Whatever. It's fine. WoW is cool for some people. I actually might get back into WoW, so I shouldn't badmouth it too much.
Oh, really?
I'm not badmouthing WoW. I'm mocking Liore. There's a vast chasm of difference there.
Yeah, there's a point with games where like if I don't have to pay attention to play them, why am I playing them?
Plus, not everything has to be epic, but I'm in a level 87 zone, and pretty much every quest in this zone is like killing things to protect vegetables, or watering vegetables, or weeding vegetables. It's a very vegetable-centric zone.
But that's how you find your inner peace and calm and grow stronger.
I can't believe you said that with a straight face.
All right, well, I think that's going to be about it this week, because we're devolving into talking about TV. So anyway, that is it for this week. Thank you, Ellie and Arrow, as always, for coming and giving me a hard time.
You're welcome. Thanks for putting up with us.
You'd think there was something wrong if we didn't.
It's true. You can find us online at lioreblog.com, Liore blog.com. Look for podcast in the main menu. We also take comments at podcast@lioreblog.com. We take calls at a phone number that I forgot to write down before we recorded this.
Isn't it like 1-900 Liore?
1-900, I want Liore. I know that it's 56 Liore, but I don't know what the area code is.
Yeah, it's New York City area code. That much I know. I think 347. 347-56 Liore.
That sounds right.
It's going to be really great if it's not.
And if not, just call that number anyway.
So yes, do call, leave us questions and comments and whatever, and we will respond to them. And we will be back in 2 weeks with more smart talk about video games. Thanks for listening. Bye!
You ended that with smart talk about video games, which is pretty awesome.